In this video, we're going to talk about the containers functionality in Peoplevox. So containers is similar functionality to what the industry refers to as a pallet label or a license plate. I'm currently in the containers tab in the Peoplevox web application, where we can view a list of all the containers currently in the platform. We can view a summary of that container. We can view the type of container it is, where that container is currently located, as well as any items within it and the reference associated. We can also, against that container, run some reports. So we can easily report on item history, so the history of movements of items through that container, the movement of the history of movements of that container, because we can move the container around the warehouse, as we'll see in a minute. And we can also view the current inventory associated with that container. So to create new containers, we can go to Add New, and we're then asked a few questions about how we want to create these containers. So we can create any number of containers in one session. So it could be one, it could be 1,000. As part of this process, we're then asked to define what type of container it is. Now, this is really just a category. We have pallet and box pre-configured, but you can add new categories very easily by clicking add and then just typing in the field as the new category you want. A key and important part of creating containers is telling the system where you're creating them in. So a container is always created within a bin location. So if I click on Find Destination, I'm asked to define where I'm going to be creating these 1,000 containers. So the most common places to create these will be in a goods in setting or in a dispatch setting, a shipping setting, which we'll come on to later on. But for this purpose, I'm going to go into the goods in section. I'm going to create a load of containers, 1,000 containers in my goods in floor space area. We're then able to finally define a reference for the containers that we're creating. When we click save, the system will go away and create those containers, which it will do very, very quickly. So just coming back to that holder where we create the bin location that we create the container in. The container is effectively a sub bin location and a temporary bin location. So when we create a container within a parent bin location, it assumes the use type of its parent. So if we create containers in a goods in quarantine area, the stock within those containers will be quarantined. But we can move the container. So this is the starting point where the container will start its life. So in my case, in the goods in area, but the container will then be moved. So we would, while the stock is in my case, this is a quarantined bin. As soon as we move the container out into a bulk storage area or into a pick face bin, the stock within that container will assume it's that use type. So if we move a container from a quarantine bin to a pick bin, the stock becomes sellable and pickable. So there's two base use cases for using containers in Peoplevox. The first would be in a goods in setting. So just to give you an example of how this would work in real life. So within the Android app here, I can go to the menu, and I'm just going to quickly go into a receive workflow to receive some stock into the system. So receiving some items, I might have a workflow within my my warehouse where I'm actually going to build a pallet as part of my receipt process. So these two items I've just received into stock. I'm going to want to put them on a pallet and then move that pallet out into the rest of the warehouse. So when I'm scanning the to location, the bin that I will scan will actually be a container label. So we would have pre-printed a reel of container container labels, which we can do from the web application that we saw earlier. So we can select multiple containers, press print, and get the label for those containers printed. So in my goods in area, I would have a reel of those labels. I would peel one of those labels off. I would stick it onto the pallet that I was building, and I would receive my inventory to a container. Hopefully we've got some containers in here. I might just have to search. Yes, we've got some, but I would receive my inventory to that label that we've pre-printed represented the next container. So I'll scan that and receive the stock into there. And from this point, then we're able to move the container around the warehouse. So we'll perform the receipt into the container. And then from that point, when we want to move that container out into a bulk area of the warehouse or any other area of the warehouse, under move, we can move containers. And basically, we scan the container or containers we want to move. We scan the bin location we're moving them to. The other scenario where using containers can be very useful is around the shipping workflow. So e-commerce orders, when we're picking a single or a multi-item e-commerce order, it's likely going to be picked to a picking cart or a slot on a picking cart. And in that setting, containers wouldn't usually be used. However, if we're picking a very large order, like a B2B order or a store transfer order, it can be very useful to, rather than pick all those items to a picking cart, we can pick those items directly into the packaging that we're going to be shipping them in. So as an example, let's just go to the pick function. If I was picking a specific order, picking a specific order, part of the workflow, I can scan a container as the to location. So the idea here is similar to what we're discussing in goods in. We could have a reel of those container labels pre-printed. This time they would be under a dispatch, like a shipping bin location. As I'm picking, I would pick my items to the next container label, and that container could be a carton or it could be a pallet. So I will pick all of my items to the container. Once that pallet or carton is full, I'll pick to the next label, etc. So I'm basically defining what's going in each carton as I'm picking. At the point where we've picked all of those items, we can then go into a shipping workflow where we basically are able to ship the whole container, or in fact, we can ship containers plural in one workflow. So that picking directly to a container and picking directly to the shipping packaging means that we don't have to define what's going in each box through a pack bench workflow, which for larger orders can have a lot of utility. Thanks a lot for watching.